So some of the questions that I asked you to do were page 452 and 453, questions 1, 2, 4, 6, 9 and 11. So some of them are, I suppose, something that maybe you haven't seen before, but I do think you might still be able to approach them yourself. So do try them before looking at these hints. So for question 4, one of the things that it asks us is to find the area and circumference, and instead of giving us the radius, they've given us the diameter. So remember, we said that the diameter is twice the radius. So if they've given us a diameter of 25 meters, then we know from that then the radius is half of that. So we divide 25 by 2 and we see that the radius is going to be 12.5 meters. Okay, so once we know that, then we can go ahead and do the normal sum. So we know that the area is pi r squared. So we can fill in our pi. Now they told us to use 3.14. So I'll fill in 3.14. And then my radius, we said, was 12.5 meters. Now, if for some reason you forget how to find the radius and you're given the diameter or something like that, still, guys, always we write down our formula first. Okay, this formula is in the log tables on page 8, so write it down. Okay, you will get marks just for writing down that formula. Likewise, if it says use pi as 3.14 and it gives us our diameter and we're not sure how to get our radius, if you just write 3.14 and let's say you multiply it by 25 squared instead, you can still get a good chunk of the marks there for that. Okay, so we know though that the radius is half the diameter, so we can do this out. So remember, it's being squared, so we have to square 12.5, and when we do that, so we're not doing anything with the 3.14 yet, we are just squaring the 12.5 so that we get 156.25. Okay, why have I done the square first? Because of BIMDAS. Okay, the I in BIMDAS is for the squared, the indices, so squares. Okay, and then I can multiply that by 3.14. So multiply by 3.14 and I get the area as 490.625 meters squared. Okay, so that's just the area we've found. Okay, it also, we go back to the question, we make sure we have completed it. It also asks for the circumference. Okay, so I still need to find the circumference. So if you're not sure how to find the circumference, we are doing the formula 2 pi r. Okay, so 2 pi r is my formula for the circumference. So here again, I'm going to fill in, instead of pi, I'm filling in 3.14 because they asked me to do that in the question. And then r for radius, I'm filling in 12.5. Okay, so here we can multiply those together and we see that my circumference is 78.5. And what's my unit? It's meters. Okay, it's still a length, so it's meters. Okay, so that's our answer to question 4 there. So if you did that yourself and you got it right, tick it off. Okay, if you couldn't do it, I want you to go back now and try for A, having gotten that. So I'm just doing some of the questions you were asked to do. You still need to do them all out. Okay, so the next one that I'm gonna give you a bit of help with is on page 453, question 6. So the reason why I'm going to give you a little bit of help with this one is because it says find the area and circumference of each of the following in terms of pi. So what does that mean? It just means that we're going to leave pi in our answer. Okay, so part B says the diameter is 2.5 millimeters. So straight away we need to say, okay, well that's not my radius that I'm using. My radius has to be half of that. So if my diameter is 2.5 millimeters, my radius is 1.25 millimeters. Okay, Then I go and I find my area, which is pi r squared. Okay, so in this case, my pi r squared, I leave pi as pi. Okay, so we leave it as pi. And we fill in r as the radius, so 1.25, and we have to square it. Okay, so into my calculator, I'm going to type in what is 1.25 squared. And I'll get that it's let me write down pi first. So pi times 1.5625. Okay, now we need to use that pi button on our calculators. So we said it's the one, we have to press shift, and then it's the one just to the right of the decimal or 2 to the left of the equals button. Okay, so we're going to multiply pi times this number. Okay, and when we do that in your calculator, so if you do that in your calculator and it comes up as a fraction, but when we press SD, okay, what we'll see is it comes up as a fraction, but it's this same exact number multiplied by pi. So I literally can just write that out as, just like if pi there, if that was a or x in algebra, and I said it was x multiplied by 1.5. That would be the exact same as 1.5 or 1.5625 in this case, x. Okay, so if that was x, so remember, so just recall in algebra, if I had x times 3, that's the same as 3x. It's the exact same here with pi. I can just write pi afterwards, and I know that that's multiplying the pi. Okay? So that is the area written in terms of pi. Now I still need to write down my units. So it's millimeters squared because it was area. Okay, so maybe pause now and try that same thing for the circumference. So 2 pi r. So try it for the circumference now. Okay, so for my circumference, so maybe you've paused and tried this one yourself. So again, we don't know pi, and we're going to fill in our radius as 1.25 millimeters. Okay, so when we type this into our calculator, so we can type in 2 pi and in the brackets then 1.25. So our calculator knows that brackets mean multiply. Okay, and what we'll see is, okay, well, we might get 5 over 2 pi, but we know that what we're doing is we're multiplying 2 by the 1.25 first. Okay, so again, let's imagine this was algebra. If I had 2x by something like 6, okay, I could know that that is the same as 2 by 6, which is 12, and then the x. Okay, so remember it was number by number, letter by letter. It's the exact same here. I can multiply the 2 by the 1.25 to get 2.5, and then my pi gets carried down. Okay, and my unit here is millimeters because it's a length. Okay, so again, that was a part B there. So maybe try part A for that one yourself. Okay, if you tried this yourself, make sure you tick it off. If you didn't try it yourself, you can turn off your iPad now and try it now yourself. Or if you really don't feel confident with it, you can just take this down. But do make sure that there's some version of this question in your copy and all these questions. Okay, question 9, I done out the start of it here because the part that was difficult, well, more difficult, was when we got on to part C, D and E. So part A asked us to find the area of a full circle, and part B asked us to find the circumference of a full circle. And then when we get on to part C, it says, using your answer from part A, find the area of a semicircle with a radius of 5 centimeters. Okay, so recall if we have a circle, so if I have a circle like this, and it has a radius of 5 centimeters, okay, then the area that I've found here, so the 78.5 centimeters squared, is this whole circle's area. Okay, now it's just a semicircle, so it's a half circle. Okay, so with the exact same radius, so we just want to half the green area that we found. So all we need to do in part C is half this area that we have found the full circle takes up. Okay, so if we're asked to find the area of a semicircle, we can use the formula for a full circle and then half it. Okay, so for part C, we can just half that amount. Okay, so we'll get 78.5 centimeters squared, and we want to half it, so we can divide it by 2, and we will get an answer there. Okay, so use that and try and get your other answers for D and E.